What up, folks? Nick Battle from the Nino's Corner podcast. We got the boy Ty Hayes from Around the Table Sports, and we got somebody who's a late bloomer today, Chris with a K from the Down podcast. What's up, fellas? What's going on?
Oh, same old, just chilling. How about yourself?
Man, I'm loving life right now, dudes. I'm moving to DC this summer. You guys know that, so I'm closing on a house in DC. The closing
I'm
was
so
supposed to be
sorry about that.
Friday. Yeah, dude, it's so freaking expensive. Yeah, my house was supposed to be closed on Friday. The seller had to postpone it to next Friday for a family emergency. So yeah, I had to cancel hotel room. It was a bunch of shit today. On top of working, right? So
Tragic.
it is what it is. It is what it is, man. But look, Chris, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. Ty, what's up, man? How you
What's
doing?
up, man?
You
Oh,
doing all right? You
I'm
doing
doing
good?
good. I'm doing good.
Hey, man. Hey, Ty, I got something planned for you pretty soon. So
I'm kind of scared about that
that's
one.
all I gotta say. You got it right now, okay?
I'm kind of scared about that
Yeah,
one.
I don't know what to think about that.
So yeah, Ty, what's up, man?
Oh, man, that's kind of scary, Ty.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
When Chris says he has something planned for you, it's usually a video or something that's going to be
bro,
off the chain.
I'll just play it. I'll play it. I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing.
Yeah.
You can't go at Ty. You can't go at Ty, man. Ty is constantly wearing a bulletproof vest. Going at him is like,
Ty's official like a Russell Wilson, man.
Exactly.
All right, man. But today, folks, man, we're going to talk about spring football camps. Ty, let's start off with Alabama, man. We got a big quarterback battle brewing up there between Ty and Milroe. What's the happenings up there?
Man, we were talking about this in the green room, and Chris, this is the interesting thing, and I've actually said this to you on several occasions. The more I watch of Reese, the more I'm like, there is logically two ways this could go. Like both quarterbacks at some level make sense. If he wants to go super run heavy, obviously Jalen Milroe offers you that. And I understand a lot of people are going to point to Jalen Milroe's inconsistencies, and look, they were there. I'm not going to argue that. But at the same time, there were some throws he made last year that were pretty good, right? He's got to continue developing. Obviously, I'm interested to see how Reese's offense will help benefit him, but the other side of that coin is Ty Simpson's very gifted as well. He's got some mobility as well. So this is going to be a legit quarterback battle. And I don't know that this is going to be solved during the spring. I think this is going to be typical Saban fashion where he's getting asked at SEC media days who's going to be starting quarterback. And he'll say, well, you better tune in game one. There's a lot of competitions at Alabama this year, a lot. So that's going to be the cherry.
If I may just jump in real quick on this quarterback battle, because I think that's an important topic that we can stop at right there. It's going to be interesting. Now, here's an outside perspective, okay? The reason why I believe that this quarterback race is going to be interesting is because you have one quarterback who could potentially be the best of both worlds. He can be a true dual threat quarterback. And the other one who I don't know if he's a dual threat or not, but at the same time,
he's got some mobility, but obviously not like
he has some mobility. And so that is why it's really interesting, because you've seen Tommy Rees deal with both kinds of quarterbacks, and it doesn't matter which one starts because he's had success with both types of quarterbacks. And I'm not talking about national championship success or anything like that, but at the same time, he's been able to go out there with his quarterback 3 and still be able to get it done in games that he needs to be able to pull it out or whatnot and put them in positions to win. So I think with Tommy Rees, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, Milroe has all the talent in the world. He's a true dual threat. He can do this. He can do that. Yes. But at the same time, does he put you in the best position to win? And so I think that's going to be the answer. Obviously, that's the obvious question and answer that needs to be, answered. But I think it's really interesting because Tommy Rees has never dealt with the caliber of quarterback that he has on campus now at Alabama. But at the same time, he's been able to get it done with both types of quarterbacks, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%. And that makes it even more interesting as to who this could be. I have no idea. And that's why I kind of lean on it going past spring, because that just seems to be kind of the Saban fashion. Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to. You got to keep both guys engaged throughout the whole summertime too, as well. I'm a big Milroe fan.
Yeah, naturally.
I am. I'm a big Milroe fan. That kid has star written all over him if it just clicks for him. I was talking to who is it? Hayden Connor's dad. So Hayden Connor played, like the little Pee Wee football with Milroe. They traveled together the whole nine. And his dad was just telling me just how good of a kid Milroe was, how special he was as a player. I think everybody understands he's a special player, but just him as a human being, just how good of a kid he was. And, guys like that you kind of root for. But, man, his talent is out the roof. Just like Chris said, I mean, a true dual threat who can literally turn it on with his legs 24/7 if he wants to. A cannon for an arm. If he can just master whatever is in Reese's offense, man, he's going to be special. But I'm not counting out Ty, man. Ty's a good dude too as well, man. So, like I said, I'm a big Milroe fan. I'm a big believer of him. Just for him to start and go into A&M last year, right, and like to win that game on like short notice and basically put the team on his legs and win that game, that was something pretty special too as well.
Yeah, and then on the defensive side, you have the linebacker battle. You have really a secondary battle, both safeties going on to the NFL, plus the nickel going on to the NFL. Rick's going on. So you've got a lot moving. Cornerback, I'm not as worried about. I think with Kool-Aid, Terry and Arnold, you got Earl Little Jr. in there. Even safety, you've got Christian Story. I think he's a really talented player. You're going to see a lot of him. The other one, I'm not going to lie, guys. I think Caleb Downs is going to be too good to keep off the field.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I just think he's going to be too good to keep off the field. And then Malachi Moore, right? He has the experience. He can get healthy. But yeah, so Bama's pretty wide open for the spring, right? Like, so throughout the entirety of these weeks to come, every Wednesday, I mean, there's wide open topics as far as Alabama goes. Probably not so much with OU. What's the word down there, Chris? I mean, y'all don't really have too many like huge battles, right?
We're done with Bama already. I have some questions.
Oh, we'll have some questions.
I was gonna say, like, I think a lot of people on the outside noise, and I think as we get closer to the season, people are going to say, okay, well, how do you feel Will Anderson's shoes? And I was going to ask you that, Ty, because Ty on every one of his shows, our shows, whatever that he's came on, he's always talked highly of the kids that's sitting right there behind him and some of these recruits that are coming in. So the question is how do you feel his shoes? I will say this right here: on the interior side of the ball, as far as just interior defensive linemen, what do you guys have there? And then what is the actual change of philosophy for guys out there who don't necessarily understand football, but also just the guys who are just wondering, like, what is going to be the real change of philosophy in the defensive room now that Kevin Steele's there, opposed to Pete Golding?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost with Will, how do you replace him? I don't know that you do just straight up replace Will. You just look at the talent around him and you're like, okay, well, next man up. I think the grace of this is you have Dallas Turner still there, who's a freak. And then this is wild, Nino. I've said this a lot, but I don't know if I've actually said this on this show. The Bama outside linebacker room is one of the most stacked rooms in the nation. Will's gone now, but you have Dallas Turner, who is the number one edge in his class, Chris Braswell, who is the number two edge in his class. You have Jeremiah Alexander, who is the number one edge in his class. You have Jahad Campbell, who is either going to play inside. I think he's going to be the starting inside linebacker next to Deontay Lawson, former 5-star, but he was an edge outside linebacker coming out. And then you have in this class 5-star Jan Pierre, and then number one edge in the nation, Keon Keeley. So there's 5-5-stars at the outside linebacker position without Will Anderson. So, like, no doubt it's going to be, tough to replace him. But if there was ever a position where you lose a Will Anderson, that's the one where you're just like, oh, thank God they've recruited that position. Just like interior is interesting. Here we go. I think we have it right here. Interior is where I think I'm going to be the most like clicked in. Jaheim Otis is the name to know. number 91. He came in, he dropped like 40 pounds before he ever played a game. And he is going to be a dude. The problem is you lost a lot in terms of experience. You have DJ Dale gone, Byron Young gone. They're both off to the NFL. Luckily, Justin Aboigbe is coming back, and I actually thought before his injury, he was probably performing the best out of the interior guys. So you just don't have like that bona fide experience. Aboigbe's a seasoned vet, so it's great he's there. But outside of that, you have Tim Smith and Otis are your other guys that really have the experience. So they're going to need some people to step up. There are names in the room, but it's like rotational right now. I expect there'll be another name, and it might be Jamil Burrows or God, there's another kid, and for whatever reason, the name escapes me right now. But he's another one to keep your eye on. The other one you asked about was what? You said interior defensive line and defensive philosophy, right? With Pete Golding. Well, I think it's going to get more back to basics, right? Back to it like the traditional Nick Saban philosophy. And what I mean is like one of the things that was interesting is whenever Nick Saban brought on Pete Golding, they almost had different defensive philosophies and they tried to mesh it, right? Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where it worked well enough, but it didn't work as well as it should have. And now with Kevin Steele, you're getting back more to your traditional Alabama defense, your hard nose, your real intense, just real physical. I think they're going to be real aggressive next year. Like I think it's going to be ears pinned back, ready to go. But we're going to have to see, man. I think Pete Golding's going to also be an interesting storyline to watch at Ole Miss. But I certainly expect that the change in philosophy you'll see is going to be aggression. I think that's going to be the name of the game for the defense is aggression.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Look, I think you guys are just reloading. I don't think you're going to be rebuilding or doing anything like that. I know Saban had the whole quote about as far as this is a rebuilding year or whatnot, but I think the continuity is there. And I think the talent is in the room because you saw some of those younger guys, especially last year. And if you even want to go to the offensive side of the ball, you saw a lot of young guys out there. But the change in philosophy in both rooms and just I think the more assertiveness, more aggressiveness as far as on each side of the ball with these coordinators, I think is going to pay off, pretty heavily next year. My only thing is I don't know the Alabama schedule by heart, but I mean, I just want to know because that's another thing is as far as just how you guys, what's your outlook on the season? Obviously, we know the expectation, but what's the outlook? How hard is the schedule?
I don't think it's a super look, it's not the hardest Bama schedule I've ever seen.
Yeah.
September 2nd, starting it off with Middle Tennessee, then Texas, then South Florida. And look, South Florida's a solid team, but not when we're talking. You get what I mean here, right there.
Yeah.
You're 3-0 already.
Respectfully, there are levels.
Hey, chill out with that. Chill out.
You got Ole Miss, Mississippi State, A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee, LSU, Kentucky, Chattanooga, Auburn.
That's not that difficult of a schedule.
I've seen a lot worse.
I've seen a lot worse for Bama too. You guys don't have that hard of a schedule.
South Florida's a solid team, but like I said, it's
South Florida against Alabama.
Yes.
So look, Ty, I just want to comment on this, man. Like Chris said, Bama's just restacking. This is not a rebuild year. I had a conversation with some guys from Texas's football team from 05, and we were talking about what does championship depth look like, right? And Bama has championship depth every year, right? I mean, it is what it is. It's when you stack talent upon talent upon talent, which I think is going to be hard to do in this new generation of NIL, right? With having so much money thrown, but it's either you build a team through NIL or you build a team through development and straight up results. Bama's in a great situation because they can do both. Right?
Yeah, they're lucky to be able to do both.
Yeah, so once you talk about that championship depth, what we're looking at here is you just named 5 or 6 5-stars that are at the linebacker position.
In one room.
Right? Yeah, in one room. So some of those guys are playing scout team, right? So just think about that for a minute. Some of these 5-stars are playing scout team. And so that's when you start to get championship depth is when you can
emulate the other team's best player with your
with your fourth string guy, right? So I remember when Jalen Hurts was there as a true freshman. He came into school early, and I remember some of the players are basically saying that freshman down from Houston, he's a problem. Wait till next season, because he came in the spring before he started, right? And so they were like, this kid's going to be a problem in the summer and the fall. Next thing you know, he's a true freshman starting, leading this team to a national championship appearance and SEC Freshman of the Year. And many believe he should have been sitting on the Heisman Trophy stage to not get the award, but be one of the people who should have been considered for the award that year, right? So that's championship depth. Championship depth is stacking talent that Bama's been doing for the last 14, 15 years now. Yeah. But yeah, I'm totally with you. It's not a rebuild, it's a reload. Bama's stacked. I think we all understand that. Defensive side of the ball, I think you're right, Ty. I think we said this plenty of times. Saban got Kevin Steele to get back to the basics. Get back to the basics. I want to get back to hard-nosed football, basic football. But when it's time to bring my studs and let them play, I'm going to bring my studs and let them play. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I completely forgot Dallas Turner was still there. Shoot me in the head for that. Dallas Turner is a freaking menace.
Yeah, Dallas Turner would be nationally talked about. Like, his name would be talked about on all of the postseason college football shows if Will Anderson
wasn't there.
Like, he is. It was actually a little bit wild, right? When you think of this, you have two guys who I think are slam dunk first round picks playing right across from each other. And just God bless the offensive line that had to block that. And there were many that did so, right? Like Kyle Flood put together a great game plan.
I know Chris didn't want to hear that.
Well, yeah, no, but I went back and watched that game, and y'all were sure to if you were running at Will, right? Like you were going to try and take advantage of his aggression, right? Yeah. Like get him to over rush and then go right in there, chip him. Like you did a lot of creative stuff.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? I was talking with my boys from Texas Football Talk. We were talking about how does Texas compete with Bama during that game, right? And I remember making the comment. I said, Will Anderson, you can't run away from him. He's too fast. You got to run at him, right? And somebody else made the same comment. People got all over the guy, but I was like, there is no right way to play this guy. The only thing is to try to make his job harder. And how do you make his job harder? Put a 320-pound person on him, put some weight on him, and just run at him. I don't want to run strictly away from him because his speed, his catch-up speed is so great that he's going to get you. He can rush. He's just the complete football player. If you looked up defensive end / outside linebacker hybrid, he is the complete guy. He's the guy that you see in the dictionary for that position. But yeah, Texas did a great job on him.
A great game plan.
A great job on Turner as well. But Alabama's so stacked that they came with I'm gonna say a B game in the first half and about a B+ game in the second half, and was still able to pull that game off.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. That's Bama last year probably. Aside from, I think I could say Alabama played A+ football for less than 6 quarters.
Exactly.
Last season. And that's the scary part, right? Like, and not for a good reason. When I say that, I don't mean it's scary. Like they should have been. No, it's scary that you had that opportunity and it just didn't come together. So
potential that season.
While I do agree with you both, this is not a rebuild season, and I'm not going to sit here and claim it's a rebuild season. I'm also not ignorant to the fact that last year's team was incredibly talented, probably had 2 guys that should have been in New York, right? Will and Bryce, and they still didn't get it done because of outside factors. That has to get cleaned up. Talent isn't the question for me right now. Yeah. It's things have got to get cleaned up as far as consistency.
But I think that's where this is the genius of Saban, right? Is he understands the defensive game plan with Golden was not meshing with his pretty much. Bill O'Brien, how that man keeps a job. He's got to know where somebody's bodies are buried. So we're, yeah. for Bryce Young to overcome the lack of coaching on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, they were winning games because of Bryce. It wasn't because of game, like game plays, game calls from like Bob, like B.O.B. So, dude, they were winning games straight up because of Bryce Young's transcendent talent and his abilities and his ability just to lead his team. It's a shame that as great as Bryce Young was in college football, Bama didn't get a championship underneath him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
That 2 years of him being a starter. Bama should have got at least one. Now, I will say the first championship against Georgia, and I know, Ty, you hate when I say this, but I got to say it. If Bryce has weapons, I mean, he lost both his wide receivers. I think it's a different outcome. That's just my opinion. I think it's a different outcome.
But do you know why I don't like that? Because I think the reason why I always get so mad at that, it's almost just like, no, they would have thrashed Georgia. The problem I have is like they still had the opportunity. Like I can name you
Ajay Hall dropping the ball.
In the end zone.
Two balls. But they
still should have won by multiple touchdowns.
That's my point.
That's what kills me.
That's my point. It's Mechie dropping the ball.
I don't think so.
He's not. So
Mechie is so consistent, man.
He was so consistent, man. So I look at that first season of him being a full-time starter. That was the opportunity. And I think Nick Saban knew it too. He knew that they shouldn't even been there, right? Saban had done something that he's never really done, taking a transfer wide receiver. I mean, Saban builds from within, right? I mean, he's the guy that recruits well, builds from within, builds a hell of a team. And for him to go get Jameson to come down, from Ohio State, and he's a first-round draft pick too. No thanks to B.O.B., just thanks to his talent and, him and Bryce having a hell of a connection. But for him to bring in almost, I wouldn't say a misfit of players, it's just not his normal group of players that he grooms himself, right? So for him to bring those guys in and still make it to the championship game and then just barely lose without his two top, guys on the edges, I thought Saban was like, you know what? Next year's about to be glorious.
Yeah.
Next year's he wasn't even mad after the game. That was the happiest I've seen Nick Saban after a loss because he didn't expect to be there. And they had made it there with a team that he thought was less talented than what he's had. And then he's like, next year, I got Bryce come back next year. He's like licking his chops, right? Like, I'm going to kill it next year. And it just never happened. It just never happened.
It just didn't come together.
Yeah.
In terms of failing up.
Little Brian got nothing on Kingsbury in terms of failing up. We know about that in the Big 12, right? Kingsbury having a losing record as a head coach and then gets a head coaching job in the NFL. Go figure.
For what it's worth, I will say, I mean, he may not have been the greatest at it with the Cardinals, but he found success, not this past season, but the season before. He found success, but just couldn't hold on to it. Couldn't keep Kyler healthy, and they did not make any moves. I don't know if it was cap or whatever the case may be before the contract, but they made no moves to get him any help on that offensive line. Now you see them actually making those moves, but yeah,
it is what it is. So Chris, how about you with your guys down there in Norman?
Man, honestly, pretty excited about some of the news that you're hearing. It's not a lot of news, but the stuff that you get from like winter workouts, rolling into kind of spring ball and stuff like that. You're happy with what you hear, man. It looks like we're gonna have some rotational pieces on that defensive line, but it seems like we went out there and did what we needed to do in the transfer portal. So if everybody can stay healthy, you're gonna see guys like Bothroyd, Trace Ford, guys like that come in there and really solidify those edges. Hopefully, you're hoping that a guy like Ethan Downs and Reggie Grimes can actually take that step and be what you thought they would be, especially coming out of the first 3-game stretch this past season. Guys like PJ Adebawore. I mean, you're hearing rave reviews about a lot of the freshmen. Guys, they're high on Vickers, they're high on Bowens, obviously. We talked about it before. One of the X factors for us, to be honest with you, is Key Lawrence. So you're hearing really good things coming out of it. I think on the offensive side of the ball, there's definitely some questions. I know wide receiver is going to be a big question for a lot of people, especially those outside looking in. I think there's talent in that room. I think there's a lot of talent in that room, but we just got to figure it out. We know Stoops and Farouk are your big two guys, but you need just kind of like what he's better than Jordan Whittington. We already know that. And he's doable. But the thing about it is that you need Stoops to be like your three or four option. He has to be that for this team to be successful. Coming in, Keon Brown, guys like Jaquez Petaway, those guys got to be able to come in and make an instant impact. And you got to see if Jaden Gibson, the Anderson kid, you got to see if those kids are going to be able to make a difference as well. But you do have Stogner back, and that's going to pay off.
That's huge.
That's huge. So having Stogner coming back and then still being able to groom Caden Helms into that other tight end position. Because like I said, I think a comp for Caden Helms, looking at his film, I think it's Grant Calcaterra all over again. I think he's a guy that he's 6'6", big body kid. I think if he improves on his blocking and becomes a true threat in that and it makes an impact in there, that's going to really help him, just potential wise. But I think he has a chance to really cause some mismatches as well. He could be what Brayden Willis was this past year in the passing game as far as being a go-to target. Quarterback is, look, the way I see it going into this season, just to be honest with you guys, either Dillon Gabriel's going to be the Dillon Gabriel we expect him to be, or we're going to find ourselves in a Clemson situation where, should we go ahead and start Jackson Normal? You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he's bad or anything like that, but it's just he left a lot to be imagined out there. But you saw him improve down the stretch, but he's going to have to get help from the run game, obviously, kind of like the Florida State game. But, my uncle and I, we were talking about Dillon today on my way home, and I said, man, I expect us to have a better season, whether that's 8 wins, 10 wins, whatever the case may be. And, we were talking, I said, kind of almost to the point now where you're like, do you want Dillon Gabriel back after this year because he still has eligibility? And the whole thing is like, okay, do you want to start the SEC with a freshman, or do you want to have him come over to build that continuity and give those, to give possibly Hawkins if he comes, but also give Jackson Norman another year to kind of, be in the system, get everything situated, feel confident about the whole situation to go out there. Regardless, I think those guys are competitors anyways. But at the same time, like I told my uncle, I said, man, the one thing about Dillon Gabriel, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts about this, regardless of what he does this year, I mean, they can go out there and win a national championship. I don't really see his draft stock getting any higher than what it probably is right now So, I mean, I think the chances of him coming back for another year are still really strong. And that's just me.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to take this one right quick, Ty.
Go ahead.
Nothing fun either, Chris. It's, actually going to be a good conversation about this. Dillon Gabriel, he has to be your starter next year, man. And the reason I say this is take it from a fan who has had to rely on freshman quarterbacks to come save the team every year, right? You need some continuity there. Just take it from a battered horn, right? Over years where we started Shane Buechele as a true freshman, started Gerard Hurd as a redshirt freshman, coming in and starting Sam, right? And then after Sam leaves, we got of course, we got Quinn that came in this past year and start. I mean, so you don't want to keep having a true freshman come in and have to save the team. I think Dillon Gabriel has to be the continuity piece for Oklahoma this year. You let Jackson Arnold, you let him sit, you let him mature, let him get his body right, the weight training right, the diet right, get ready. And I think in 2024 that should be Jackson's job in 2024 going into the SEC. He won't be a true freshman. He would have had a full year plus a spring, right? Because he's early, right?
Yeah.
He's an early guy, right?
Yeah.
So you got a full season plus a spring. So he have 2 springs, 2 off seasons, and a full season of work to where he can let the game slow down for him and let him just thrive. Because as good as these quarterbacks are coming out and these systems are making these quarterbacks look so good, and Jackson Norman is a talented ass kid. He's a 5-star for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Dillon Gabriel comes over to the SEC and he's your starting quarterback that first year, and then Jackson comes in and starts in his third year, right? Red shirt sophomore year, you might only have one season with him. One season, and I think that would be a foul for Oklahoma to have that kind of talent on their team, and honestly, potentially only get one season to play out of them.
But at the same time, I think that that's interesting. That is because it's hard to even go against that because hell, Kyler's the perfect situation. I mean, he's the perfect example.
But you had a Heisman Trophy quarterback in front of him.
Yeah,
DG ain't that.
Now, I'm not saying that DG is that. I don't know. I think we would have to see how it shakes out. I mean, obviously, you get to commit. Ty, I think you would back that up. I think it's a big commitment from the Sperry kid. Obviously, in 2025, you have the
he's very talented.
Yeah, you have the Hawkins kid, the potential of him signing or committing at least on April 8th. So I mean, you have your options. I think the thing is, you gotta just get through this season. But I think the possibility of him coming back is very strong. I think it would be pretty awesome if he did, especially if he could build on what he did last year, especially to end the season. But it's going to be interesting in that position. But I'll say this again. I'll say this right now. It should be no surprise. I think this defense is going to be better this year. But I still say that what it really boils down to for me, for us to have a successful season, is our edge play on defense. Defensive line has to be better. We got to be able to control the run. I really like our secondary. I really do. I think we're talented secondary. I think that's our strongest unit. But quarterback is going to be a big thing. It has to be a big thing this year because I feel like you're going to have the backs. Nick, if you haven't heard the name now, if you didn't watch the Florida State game, I think
I watched it. It was a good game, by the way.
Gavin Sawchuk is going to be that guy.
Oh, Sawchuk, hey, I'm with you on that. That guy really impressed me.
Yeah,
he impressed me. I mean, I was like, who is this kid?
Yeah, like why hasn't he played all year, right? But no, right? I think Sawchuk and then also Barnes. Smothers can be in there. If healthy, you could probably get Marcus Majors. You're going to have a really strong running game this year, I believe.
Sawchuk was nice. I ain't going to lie.
I think there's a name in y'all's running back room that is going to get some play. Tawee Walker.
Really?
Yeah. He's talented, man, and he fits what Lubby wants to do. He's able out the backfield. And I think whenever you look at this, especially when you have Sawchuk, I don't know, man. I think, and I don't think it's going to come at the expense of any of the names you just listed. That's not my point with listing Tawee Walker. I just think that he's an interesting name to keep up with in the grand scheme of this.
Yeah, and I mean, I do too. I think we have a really strong running back room, and I think that's going to give us help, especially in the pass game. But the thing about it is that Gabriel is going to have to step up, and he can't. Look, Gabriel just can't be as inconsistent as he was last year. Do we need him to be amazing? No. Georgia proved that already. All you have to have is a stout defense and a capable quarterback. Now, did he play out of his mind this past season? Yes. Stetson played out of his mind this past year, but at the same time, you don't have to be incredible to go to do what you need to do. But success is riding on him, and then obviously, like I said, it's that defensive line, man. The defensive line has to be shored up. Ty and I have talked about it countless times. That is what will make this defense different. That is what made the Clemson defense different. That is what made the OU teams of past with Venables on there different, is that defensive line. So you have to win those battles. It's a must, especially in recruiting. You got to win those battles. And kind of to answer you guys' question, I mean, that's kind of the reason why it's been so quiet, is because recruiting has really ramped up for us and the possibility of what this class could be, especially on the defensive line with the potential targets that we have.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, for you guys on the line. I think we all know, the game's won in the trenches, especially on the defense side of the ball, man. You get some stout guys in the middle. You look at any championship team, you're going to see a stout defensive line. It just is. Look at Georgia this past year. Look at Georgia just a year before. I mean, you think about it, having Jordan Davis last year, and then, 2 years ago, and Jalen Carter lad. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just a plethora of riches for the championship teams just along that line. Look at Bama, from the last let's say 5 years with all like every first round defensive lineman that they had drafted over the Allen and who's the kid over there? Payne. I mean, just everybody, man. They're just always stout. Quentin Wood. I mean, yeah, they're just squat. They're just stout, man. So yeah, it is what it is.
I think it's always interesting to talk to Ty about this because they're there and we're trying to get back there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of I don't know if you can say that, but for
you see how this guy? Come on, man.
Ty, he brings out the Auburn flag at the end of every stream. I'm well aware of his antics.
I got to deal with this all the time with Chris. Now it's gonna be interesting. Yeah. Go ahead,
I have 2 questions, right? And I do want to talk about the quarterback. So before I ask the questions, I'll kind of piggyback off of DG because you asked if I think, or if you thought it's a possibility he could come back, right?
Yeah.
And Chris, I think you specifically asked like if he is what he is, right? Like would coming back improve his stock?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if he had a big year, like a big year, which he's got ability, like talent isn't necessarily in the question for Dillon Gabriel. And I'm not saying that like, oh, this guy's a first round quarterback, but he's a talented guy. I mean, whenever he's on, that much is clear.
He's on. Yeah, he's on when he's on.
But I think he almost is what he is at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I think that his draft stock is pretty much well set between a few different rounds. And it's just like, okay, well, when you start going on, you'll move up. But I don't think he's going to come back after this year. And the reason is because I'm going to be honest, guys. If Arnold is who we think he could be, and if he is who OU fans expect him to be,
he's going to leapfrog him.
I don't think he's going to beat Jackson Arnold after next season. I don't, because I think Dillon Gabriel has the tools to keep Jackson Arnold on the sideline this year, right? Mm-hmm. I think he knows what Lebby wants to do, and I think it's great for Jackson Arnold to have somebody in front of him that knows what Lebby wants to do, because we do need to remember Lebby and Gabriel have that relationship prior, right? Yeah. So that's even better for someone like Jackson Arnold. But I do expect Jackson Arnold's going to be the future. I think he's your quarterback when you get into SEC play.
Exactly.
I'll say this. Barring DG having a stellar season this year, which if he does, he would head to the NFL. So that would kind of answer that. If DG's your starting quarterback heading into the SEC, I don't want to go as far as saying something has gone wrong.
Mm-hmm. But something's gone wrong.
But something is amiss.
Yeah,
right? Like something is amiss, because that means that he didn't have the year that got him into the NFL this year. So that means y'all probably,
or Ty, if he's a starting quarterback going into SEC play, then that means Jackson Arnold hasn't developed and progressed as what Oklahoma would have wanted him to.
Yeah, both. It points to both, right? Like both things would be true. And that's why I say I think when it comes to SEC, Jackson Arnold's going to be the guy, because I have so much faith in him. My biggest questions to you is this, Chris. So we talk about the defensive line, and I think that's a fun place to talk about. But Venables is a linebacker guy. So naturally, I want to talk about the linebacker position, because Bama's in the middle of the linebacker battle as well. I've said it. I think it's going to be Campbell and Lawson, but that's why I was so pissed off whenever Florida hired Austin Armstrong. I was actually really excited about that guy being the linebacker coach. What are y'all looking at for linebacker right now? Because Deshaun White played Cheetah. He's moving on. Mm-hmm. Agwebu hits the transfer portal. Stutzman is one, but who is the other linebacker that played consistently? Kannick saw some play.
Kannick saw some play. It was obviously Agwebu was the only other one. We didn't really necessarily have the depth. Shane Whittier got hurt this past season, so I don't believe we really had the depth that we wanted. I think we were still trying to groom those guys in that position, at least for Venables, and then Venables defense.
Huge learning curve.
It's a huge learning curve. So, I mean, you still got guys out there who, obviously you can talk about Lewis Carter. You can talk about the Samuel. I can't ever say his last name.
Omashigo?
Yeah.
I know you'll have some young guys you're really excited about.
You got guys like that you're excited about, but then again, you can't look right. You can't look past Kip Lewis or or Kobe McKenzie. So I think that you're going to have depth. I think you're going to have depth this year as well. And I honestly, I think going into the season, the expectation for a lot of fans, OU fans, honestly, is that it's Kennick's job to lose. I think at that other inside backer, I think it's his job to lose. I think McCullough, I think that the cheetah position is his to lose. But at the same time, I mean, you got guys out there.
One or the other, right? Yeah. Either it's McCullough at cheetah and Kennick at linebacker, or vice versa. Kennick. Yeah. Either way, I think.
But I think that they want Kennick to be more of an inside backer. Gotcha, I think the way that they feel is that he's more effective sideline to sideline. They think that he's.
I don't disagree.
He's that type of guy because of his speed and just because his willingness to tackle. So it's going to be interesting this year. I don't necessarily know. This is just speculation to me. I don't know. After spring, if guys like Marcus Majors, Shane Whittier are still around just because they're being pushed for those positions by these talented kids coming up. So I don't know. I really don't know. I think that the buy-in is there, but at the same time, that's an interesting question. But if I had to guess right now, if they put out a two deep chart right now, I would say it probably have to be Kennick and Stutzman as your starters with McCullough at cheetah.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be, if I was building it, Kennick, Lewis, and then McKenzie.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a really fun one to watch. And then I guess my last one, offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
All right, aren't y'all losing 2 tackles?
Yeah, but I think that I want to say
you have Beatmo, right? So you have a great offensive line.
Well, yeah, but the tackle that you got from the tackle that you got from in the portal from with Stanford, was it Rouse? Or was Rouse
Walter Rouse. Yeah.
And then you got the other kid, I forget which school he was, that's coming in that possibly move inside as well. So don't get me wrong, and replacing Anton Harris is not gonna be an easy thing, but at the same time, I think with Tyler Guyton, I think he
really like him. Yeah.
I think what you do, I think you leave Tyler Guyton at right tackle, and then you put Rouse over there as your left tackle. I think he's experienced, and Beaton Bow wouldn't get him if he didn't think that he could shuffle him around. Because if you look at our offensive line, you got a bunch of guys that can play all over that. At least that's what he wants, and that's what he kind of forces him to do. But I think that if Guyton can sew up that right tackle position, and then obviously the left tackle, if you can sew that up with Rouse, I really want to see Bird. Bird has to start.
And Sabian Bird's nice. I remember seeing him in high school. That kid's nice. I saw him in high school, and I was like, he might be the best player in the field right now. I mean, he's nice.
For as the small amount of production that he's had at OU, he looked pretty damn good out there in the Florida State game. I mean, you just let him loose, and that's exactly what he's been needing, just a game to let him loose. Did he get some penalties or whatnot? Yes, but hell, who has it in this offense here, especially with how fast they move? But a guy like that who has the potential to be a mauler inside. That's been one of the problems that we've had with like Matwire, Kungle, and then also with Andrew Raym, is just being physical on the interior.
I agree.
Go back to Lincoln's last season here and go and watch that Baylor game. As much as I like Andrew Raym got his ass handed to him by the nose tackle for Baylor.
You and I talked about it right after that game. It was on a live right before we went live. You and I were like, that they went straight through the middle every time.
Every time. And it's like, with Baylor, I always talk about it. It's like they're just running a crash blitz almost, where they have middle linebacker coming and they have like their star coming on the edge. And it was the perfect counter. It was the perfect, play or set to run to counter the GT counter that Lincoln was running. So, I mean, whenever you're getting that much push from your nose tackle in the middle, it's just easy to come through the middle with somebody else and just basically crash down, and you're stopping that, because when those offensive line are pulling and they're coming to the other side, by the time they get there, hell, it's already crashed, and it's hell on earth hell on wheels coming right at you, because everybody's already out of position now. You know what I'm saying? So that's been a thing for us. It's just our interior, I think, on both sides of the ball has not been what it has been, in past years.
Yeah, I think that's why it's going to be. And I wasn't look. Whenever you have an offensive line coach like Bedenbaugh, you tend to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? That's why that was the last position group I was interested in, because it's like, I expect him to get that right. I'm not too worried about that.
It'll turn around quick, almost like what Texas had when their first year with Cal Flood. The line started to show improvement towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And in his second season, we saw him get the guys he wanted. Bring in two freshmen that came in and played, and actually played pretty well.
Played very well.
Yeah, we saw that line start to gel last year, and so. Having just a world-class coach on the line, man, that just means a lot. So Bedenbaugh's that guy, and so is Cal Flood. So,
yeah, no doubt.
Understanding, and this will be the last thing I say, with the offensive line, for me, it's understanding what the point of this offense is. We want to get our running back a one-on-one battle, because if he wins that one-on-one battle and we get the blocks we need down the field, he's gone. Especially with a guy like Sawchuk. And from what I'm hearing, Javonte Barnes is really improving in a lot of areas. We could see some
scary, because he was just really, really an all-around solid running back.
Really good, yeah.
And I mean, and so that's the thing. If you understand the run concept, really what Levy is doing, he's wanting to create a one-on-one battle for his running back to be able to win and go do what he needs to do. That's what you saw Gray do. Gray was so shifty with it and was able to. He finally quit dancing and he finally got through the hole. And once he did, it was a one-on-one battle and in open space. Not too many guys are going to be able to tackle Eric Gray.
Once Gray got that one cut, I mean, it's just great. Give me one cut, hit the hole, and then once you get in the safety or linebacker, you can dance.
Yeah, dance. Yeah.
Dance in. Don't dance in the backfield.
That's how I am. Yeah.
He helped us out when he was dancing. But it is what it is. I know you mad. All right, man. But look, I'm gonna talk about Texas now for a little bit.
I was gonna ask about other SEC teams. Nobody wants to hear that trash, man.
Let's talk about Texas, man. Big thing with us is the QB battle, right? I think everybody's seeing, the practicing shorts with Quinn throwing the ball and Arch throwing the ball, and people are going nuts right now because they're seeing Arch Manning throw a ball in Texas shorts and a t-shirt. But I think the biggest thing for me, and I was talking to Ty about this in the green room, is Malik Murphy, man. I mean, he has that foot injury. And, for Texas fans, I would say you want Malik Murphy healthy this year, because everybody understands there's going to be opportunity for your guy, your second stringer is going to have to come in and play. And you want a guy who's a little bit seasoned. I mean, look at OU last year. DG misses a game, and you see what happened in the game that he missed. It's probably the most important game of the season last year against your biggest rival, and you guys didn't have a backup to come in and be serviceable, right? So I know Arch should be more than serviceable if he is the backup, but the thing for Texas fans, I want Texas fans to realize is you don't want your backup to be Arch Manning and he comes in and does something astronomical. And then every time Quinn does something that isn't what the fans want, they're automatically calling for the second string quarterback to come in. And that second string quarterback that does something astronomical could be Malik Murphy too. We just got to see how he's going to progress his injury. I'm really worried about that. I'm rooting for the kid. I'm a big Murphy fan. It's just sad to see him with the same injury that he's had since his junior year of high school, and it's just lingering and lingering and lingering. And you want to see him get healthy, because Texas is going to need their second quarterback at least a game or two this year. Every team does. I mean, Bama needed it this year. Bryce couldn't play. They had Milroe come in, and he won a game for him. I mean, your second string quarterback has to be a person who has the ability to come in and take snaps and actually win games for your team. So, I'm rooting for Malik. I think everybody understands, though, if he's not healthy, that battle is Quinn and Arch.
Nick, I think Ty and I would like to. I'm gonna speak for Ty on this. I think we would. I think we would like to address the elephant in the room. Okay.
No.
Look, you already talked about the 3-ring circus. Okay, 3-ring circus started when you signed. When you signed Arch Manning, when he actually put pen to paper, not just when he committed. Kieran Stephen, all of them. Oh my God, the second coming of Jesus Christ is here in Texas. You know what I'm saying? It's look, the search is already there. I said it on Ty's podcast. I said it on mine. You guys are now going to. I'm not going to say you're going to regret citing him. Obviously,
no. That's
but
crazy.
The circus that it's going to create, because here's the thing. Mullet, I can't even call him mullet.
He don't have a mullet no more, man. Get off my man's head job, man.
Outer Banks guy, because he looks like a character off of Outer Banks. Look,
you can do better than that. That's just derivative.
That was a cheap one. I got some more.
You gotta get better than that one.
I can't call him OP because we already know who OP is. That's
man. Hey.
Okay. But back to the point though. Look, we all know that Quinn. This is the thing. Quinn has to clean up some of his mistakes from last year. I'm not going to say his mechanics. It's just decision making. That boy pulls the trigger. He's a gunslinger for sure. He will stare you down and pull the trigger.
I will say mechanics as well, though. And when I say mechanics,
you're right.
He's so damn talented.
Yeah,
he has. He can have lazy footwork. Yes, he is so damn talented. I watched him, and one of the throws. I mean, he made it right. So when it works, you're a genius. When it doesn't, we're talking about you right here.
Yeah.
He completed one beautifully. A few throws later, I mean, he was graced by the football gods. He wasn't picked off on one of them. It just floated on him because he didn't ever set his feet. Yeah. And it was a trend. When he really struggled, he was not setting his feet.
Yeah. But that's the thing. He got a little antsy too last year as well. But, Chris, I'm with you. I'm not going to say I'm with you on the circus. That's just any team in the country. If Arch Manning would have said, hey, OU, I'm coming to OU. OU's taking Arch Manning. It is what it is. Bama, I'm coming to Bama. Alabama's taking Arch Manning.
We recruited him. Yeah.
Yeah, they recruited him. Georgia, I'm coming to Georgia. Anybody in the country, everybody had a slot open in case Arch Manning said I was going to come. They didn't care whoever they had to kick off. Somebody was getting kicked off of the damn team to have a scholarship available for Arch Manning.
But here's the problem.
What's that?
I don't think that, bear with me when I say this. Alabama and OU have a different culture built in there. And I think with the coaching staff that they had, they would have nipped that in the bud and they would have treated it like it was just normal. I think that, and I think that Sark could very well have that backbone too. But at the same time, look, I know you're saying that they're not a real thing, but you guys have boosters and a lot of different hands that are inside.
I'm going to refute that because you can't say your coaching staff is going to do something, but you got a brand new coaching staff. We don't know what BV is going to do. He's new.
I'm just saying.
We don't know what BV is going to do.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying we wouldn't. Neither team would take the kid, but I'm just saying that you guys have something that OU and Bama don't.
What's that?
Which is all of these boosters and all these other people that they say there's a lot of voices inside the building. Okay, it's not just one.
I think that's an overreaction. I think you go behind the scenes of any blue blood program. There are a bunch of boosters throwing money and talking.
Right? No, but not as loudly as it's been said about Texas.
That's because people say things about Texas. The only thing that so Ty brought this up about 2 or 3 months ago about the boosters when they put out the Eyes of Texas piece, right? Mm-hmm. Which you know what, they outed somebody who was emailing these kids. I'm with you on that. Do it, do it. I'm totally fine with that. You know what I'm saying? Things like that are not the problem. I think the booster part gets overblown at Texas because we just have a bunch of damn money and people say, well, look, Texas isn't running right. It's got to be the boosters. Nah, Texas wasn't running right for a bunch of years because we had lack of development. Nobody said anything about the boosters when Mac Brown was over there doing his thing. For 10, had one of the best runs in 10 seasons, 10 win seasons straight for 10 or 12 years straight or whatever. Nobody had a question about the boosters then. The booster narrative came into play when we couldn't figure out who the head coach was going to be after Mac Brown left. We went down to get Charlie Strong. He wasn't our first, second, and third choice. If it was that much of a booster thing, we would have got our first, second, and third choice because they would have just threw a ton of money at a person and told them to come to Texas. So, I I think the booster part gets overblown. I think all the blue bloods have boosters. We just got a lot of money, so people like to equate why we haven't been as good as we should have been because of the talent we have in the team to the boosters. And I don't think it's because of the boosters. I think it's because the team was not recruiting the necessary talent to go win games. A lot of skilled players, not a lot of trench players, and that ultimately killed our squad over the last decade.
I think personally, I think boosters has become a blanket term for culture with Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
I think and we talked about this.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the, I think last time you said the same thing, and then I did kind of retort, and I was like, yeah, to be fair though, like I do agree. There are boosters who are crazy involved at every single institution. I don't think that's unique to Texas. There was some things that were unique to Texas, but they are now moving in a better direction, thank God. I just think that when everybody said it, the real issue it was culture.
Culture and development. I mean, that was the culture of the team, man. And it starts from the head down, from the coach down.
Yeah, and it was almost like it was expected to be handed because the brand was so big. It almost felt like the football team expected to be handed the national championship because they deserved it. That's from the outside looking in. That's what Texas football has felt like for a while. And it certainly has changed here recently, but like it just almost felt like the second Texas they were ready to go, but the second they got hit in the mouth, it was almost like they stood there. You know that meme of or it's not a meme, it's the video of the kangaroo that steals that man's dog in Australia, and he runs up to the kangaroo and smacks the shit out of it, and that kangaroo just stands there stunned. That was Texas football for a long time after Mac Brown. Yeah.
Well, I would say a decade under Brown. Brown's last 3 or 4 years, and the Charlie Strong years, which I was surprised by because he's a defensive guy. Teams just wasn't. But Charlie inherited a lot.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. I think he inherited a lot.
He inherited a lot. He was coming in here changing the culture, and you want people to change the culture, but when they do change the culture, you have to expect. If you're throwing away good players off a team, expect W's to go out the window as well. And so it's what do you do? Tom Herman tried to bring the toughness back. I mean, he had all these crazy rules, and he wasn't a likable coach. But I think Texas got it right with Steve Sarkisian.
That's why I've been the proponent of Sark.
I think Texas got it right. I don't think people understand when you look at Sark's press conferences and the way that he talks, he came off very, very nice and stuff the first year. I think you're starting to see who Sark really is. Last year, he was a little bit more testy. He was a little bit more.
God forbid you put your hand on him.
Yeah. He was a little bit more Saban-like.
That was trash. That wasn't Saban-like. That was trash. You treat people how you want to be treated.
Okay, so like when Saban cussed out old girl for asking a question. Okay,
when
so
he has rings on his hands,
I don't. No. Oh, so hold on, Chris. So it's not.
Mark got a ring by default. Don't do that.
No.
He was an assistant. He was an assistant. He was offensive coordinator.
Rings. I said so. When you got rings, it's okay to be trash. When you don't have rings, you can't make any mistakes. That's all. That's a question.
Saban told that girl to quit asking him about the stuff. He didn't tell him to get his effing hand off of him. Your coach is trash.
Don't touch no grown ass.
If your coach comes to Norman, if your coach ever comes to Norman and does that, holler at me because he's gonna need help with a suit. All right, I'm just letting you know.
He ain't gonna need help with nothing.
And it's gonna be him suing somebody for whooping his ass. If you know what I'm saying.
Man, get out of here, y'all up there scared. No, I don't want to hear about no Norman, man.
You think I didn't know what I was doing when I dropped that comment? I'm sowing the seeds of dissent over here.
I'm just saying, don't do that. Like let's get to so wide receiver. What's up with your wide receivers, man? Because I
like a lot of them.
I like the room. I like the room. I like the way we're seeing what Sark's doing. We see the kind of player Sark wants, right? He wants outside with speed. I think he has Worthy on there. He's going to have Jonte Cook doing his thing too. Jonte
That's
Cook's
my
going to
favorite one.
He's going to be a monster, guys. Jonte Cook is one of the more respected players in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Kids love him, recruits love him. He has an attitude about him.
He's infectious.
He's infectious. He is your typical wide receiver. Give me the damn ball kind of wide receiver.
Yes.
And he knows he's good. I loved seeing him and Manny Muhammad, those two playing against each other in games, knowing that they're going to be teammates the next year. And those two going at it, talking mess. Jonte's talking mess at him. It was awesome to see. But he knows I'm gonna line up against this dude for the next 3 to 4 years. But I'm still gonna talk that stuff to you, and I'm gonna see you on campus in about 2 months, buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like he is a dog. So I love Jonte Cook. I love having Xavier Worthy back. I like Whittington back. But what I really love is that monster that came from Georgia in A.D. Mitchell. Because now we finally have us a wide receiver on the boundary who can go get it done, can catch contested balls. A guy that him coming into the fold allows us to ease in Nair. Nair just came off a torn ACL. We don't know how he's going to pop back from that. So if you have both of those guys, splitting time at the boundary, or even if AD kind of takes that job and runs with it, Nair can get healthy, do his thing. What if you put both of them on the field at the same time? I think we have a good problem at wide receiver. We have a really good problem at wide receiver. Brennan Thompson, 10-2 speed, which is weird that he's not in spring practice. He's running track right now. I would think he would want to be playing spring ball right now with his teammates and not.
He wants to be with the winning program of y'all's.
Oh, man, get out of here. You guys went 5-7 last year. Shut up.
We went 6-7.
I'm sorry, 6-7. 6-7. I'm sorry.
Get it right if you're gonna do it.
I'm gonna give y'all a win. I'm gonna give y'all a win. My bad. But it's that's kind of weird to see him running track right now instead of being in spring camp, because now guys like Jonte Cook are gonna jump him. Guys like Ryan Niblett are gonna have the opportunity to jump him. There is so much talent in that wide receiver room. Texas moved Savion Red over to running back. And I've heard rave reviews about Savion Red. Every time Tashard Choice talks about the running back, Savion Red comes out of his mouth. He loves what he sees over there. But I think the wide receiver position, Whittington, Cook, Mitchell, Nair, I think we're going to be fine, barring any injuries. And we already know Chris is non-factor at the tight end position. And, JT Sanders.
Ty. I've seen talent. I've seen talent before, and that's not
Ty, you hear this? Ty ain't even saying nothing. He ain't even saying nothing to you. But so having a guy like JT Sanders at tight end as well, who you can split out wide, put in the slot as well, play some H-back with him as well. But I think the wide receiver is gonna be fine. My the key battle that I'm gonna look at is running back. I think Jonathan Brooks is going to start, but I think Cedric Baxter is going to be so talented that you're not going to be able to keep him off the field. And it's how much run is Sark going to give a true freshman? How much leeway is he going to give him the first mistake he makes? Is he more like Mac Brown, where we had a guy named Cedric Benson who he didn't play for the first 6 games of the season as a true freshman until after the OU game, and he plays after the OU game and rushes for damn near 1,000 yards in the season in 6 games? Or is he going to be like Charlie Strong, who just says, if you're the best player, you're going to play, but I think that was by need? Or is he going to be like Tom Herman, where we had a guy named Bijan Robinson, who I think he robbed of 7 games probably his freshman year. And who knows what could have been of Bijan with more yardage and things of that nature in his first year if it didn't miss a bulk of games in his first year. So we'll see. I like Jonathan Brooks at the running back position to come out and play and do great things. I like Cedric Baxter coming in there and probably getting about 90 carries in the first season.
Yale's running back room is going to be interesting because as much as I love the talent you have, replacing Bijan is going to be rough.
It's going to be rough. Bijan's a monster. He's a generational talent. I think we all understand that. But like I told Chris before, and I told everybody else, I think Jonathan Brooks is going to have a damn good season this year. And I say that because I think the offensive line that Jonathan Brooks is going to have this year is going to be better than any offensive line that Bijan had at Texas over his.
I see the argument there. I mean, it's credible, but I still don't know. I'm just not sold.
I'm not saying it's going to be a Bijan season. I'm just saying.
Oh, I know that. I'm just saying I'm not completely
be,
sold on that. I think the pass game is where you guys are going to make your money at this year. I think that if whatever that guy's name is, the tight end, if he can actually be
JT Sanders,
listen, what I mean by that is just look, we've saw some extremely, like, I know you're a numbers guy, I know Ty is a numbers guy, but I'm talking about actually having a real impact on the game. I'm talking about really taking it to a next step to where you're not looking at A.D. Mitchell, you're not looking at Jonte Cook, you're looking at him as either he's the second option, he's a legit second option. Do I think that he could be that? Potentially. I think that Sark is good enough as a play caller to put him in those positions, but I'm still not gonna go out here on a limb and say, yeah, he had one good season with these numbers right here. He was motivated. Of course he was going to play good this year. He was motivated. They didn't ask him to do that much. And then especially with Billingsby not being there, because that was going to be the X factor. I think Billingsby would have helped him take his game to another level last year, because Billingsby would have came in and actually demanded a lot of attention because of the threat that he could be.
But Chris, that's the beauty about it. Chris, that's the beauty about it. He didn't have another tight end opposite to him that could catch the ball. We didn't have wide receivers. You guys, everybody in the country knew the ball was going to go to Bijan running the ball, Xavier Worthy, who we were playing out of position. He's not a deep ball threat. He can't track a ball. It just is what it is. He's the guy that you get in open space and you let him do work. You get Worthy in open space and let him do work. He's not a boundary wide receiver. We had him going up there tracking balls and catching.
He's a great slot.
He's a great slot. I mean, he's a guy that can do intermediate routes extremely well, but he's not a guy that you want to go out and make contested catches. That's not his game. All right. But I think you're making my point here, Chris, is that you knew the ball was going to X, Bijan, or JT Sanders. That was it. And so he had no other talent around him to where, like you say, he could flourish off of, because somebody else was going to have an opportunity to get the ball and leave him on one-on-one coverage. I mean, I think you made my point there.
So before we get out of here, we're going to talk about Texas A&M or no? Because I'm done with this Texas stuff, bro.
Ty, you got to help me out with JT Sanders, man. You can't call JT Sanders a non-factor.
I'll put it like this, man. If he was available in the transfer portal, I would have been making videos being like, hey, I know nobody at Bama sees my opinion, nor does it really matter. I'm just some idiot talking about football, but somebody go get him, please. For the love of God. I think, look, I am a little biased, and I've always admitted to this. I always say it in the videos, I'm biased towards any of the players that come from Denton, because I got the opportunity to watch them on multiple occasions, right? So, like, I'm always going to root for them to do well. My fiance teaches at Ryan ISD, essentially, right? She's an elementary school teacher, but her system feeds into Ryan, their ISD. So I always root for these Denton kids to do well. But I think that kid is an X factor at tight end. I dedicated a whole, and you'll remember, I dedicated a whole section of the video I made, the breakdown, to just like, okay, Worthy's there, I get it, cool.
But Sanders is a special talent, man.
Sanders is going to take away the safety, which is going to hurt us, because then who's going to cover Worthy? It's one of those things, man, where you don't have to get the ball to really hurt a defense. And that's something that Sanders did for Texas, is he was chess-pieced around.
He was chess-pieced, man. And that's the beauty of Sark. And I know Chris likes to bring up Mark Andrews, and we've had – okay, I want you to go look at Mark Andrews' first 2 seasons. I want you to compare his second season.
Come on, man. Don't do that, Nick. I just said that. I said I get it. You guys are numbers guys. That's fine.
Let me
finish. He's a non-factor.
Let me finish. I want you to go look up Mark Andrews' second season. I want you to go look up JT Sanders' second season. JT Sanders didn't even play his freshman year. He had more catches in his first season of starting than Mark Andrews had in his first 2 seasons combined, and only about 150 yards less than Mark Andrews did from one season than Mark Andrews had in his first 2 seasons. I think JT Sanders is going to have a breakout season this year. Is it going to be a 1,000-yard receiver? No. I look at him having the season this year probably about 750 yards. I think Texas has too much talent on this wide receiver, on this field at the wide receiver position to do great things. So I look at JT Sanders. I'm a plug him in between 650 and 750 this year and about 7 touchdowns and about probably 13 yards to catch. And I think he's going to be an X factor.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Day 2 pick, 2nd round pick.
And whoa.
I think it's a day 2 pick.
Whoa. He said it one more time. Whoa. Crazy.
2nd round. I mean, I do. I think it's a 2nd, 3rd at the latest. I'm serious.
Hey, Nick, take your glasses off real quick.
No, I'm not taking them out.
Just take your glasses off real quick. I want to see if you've been smoking on that Zaza again. You know
now
what I'm
saying? I ain't smoking on Zaza. Now, if you're saying drink some of that yak.
I'm just saying, man. I mean, it's sad, man. It's really sad that okay, you could have came on here and said AD Mitchell, and I'd be like, all right, okay, cool, I can see it because I've seen that. I've seen Sark do that. I haven't seen Sark with this great tight end that you keep talking about.
Well, he had a tight end last year that almost had 700 yards.
If that tight end was that great, then guess what?
What?
Y'all would have scored more than 3 points or 10 points or however many points y'all scored against TCU. Y'all actually did something. Y'all would actually had threats out there, but y'all got shut down again.
Did you watch the game?
I watched the game.
I was there at the game, and it's nothing on JT Sanders. Nothing on JT Sanders. All I know is he scored 2 touchdowns against Oklahoma in that 49-0 bash when we put in that.
That's what you want to talk about, and that's what you want to talk about.
I'm just saying. You're gonna get this talk. You're gonna get this talk until you see it in October. I'm gonna see you in October. I'll be down there again. This time, Chris, don't leave early before the game in, okay? I want to see you after the game. Your ass left in the 3rd quarter. Don't leave early this year. Don't leave early this year, Chris. I didn't get a chance to shake your hand this year.
I didn't get a chance to shake your hand this year.
Nick, there's no training that you received. What corps are you with?
I'm in the Air Force.
Exactly. There's no training up there and high in the sky that could have kept you from that country boy ass whooping you would have got that day. I'm just letting you know.
Hey, get your ass.
There's no amount of training that you could have got.
Get your ass on. So I see tougher than you in Iraq and Afghanistan. Move, boy.
I'm just letting you know. But no, for real though, what's up with Texas A&M, guys? I mean, I think we got to talk about them before we get up out of here.
Oh God. Look, A&M. They have.
It's interesting here.
This is so crazy because the offense ran through 2 people. It ran through 2 people, and neither of those people are there anymore. It ran through Anaya Smith. It ran through A-Chain.
A-Chain, yep.
And neither one of them are there anymore. Now, I love the Petrino hire, and I hate the Petrino hire, right? Yeah. It's one of those where, like, from a football standpoint, I'm like, you got a really, really high-quality offensive-minded offensive coordinator. Like, that's awesome. My only worry is this, guys. Jimbo's an offensive guy whose offense has consistently been worse than his defense, and he had too big of an ego to relinquish control. He had such a big ego that, I mean, look, I'm not mad at him for getting the contract, but look at the way he moved after he got the contract. Mm-hmm. Man, straight up talking like he's Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, or Dabo, and it's like, buddy.
You ain't that, buddy.
You're not. Like, every single coach that I just listed won a natty, but remained at 1A, or at the very worst 1B in college football.
Yeah. And then
none of them have slipped.
Won a natty and backdoored it again with another one. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
But on Clemson, or let's say Bama this year, they didn't make the playoffs. We can say they were 1B. You list your A-tier teams in college football, they were AB, right? Like A light.
Yeah.
Clemson is A light. My biggest worry, guys, is if his ego stopped him from hiring an offensive coordinator for all of these years, am I convinced that all of a sudden his ego is going to step out the way? I don't know. I don't know. I think obviously him making the move would indicate yes, but it's one of those things where I just have to see it. I'm just really interested in how this is going to work out.
I am too. Yeah, he's a special character. He's a very special character. People talk about the money Texas has. Texas A&M got a bunch of money too, y'all.
Texas A&M has got ungodly amounts of money.
They got a ton of money. I'm just thinking, how the
Is
hell?
Is it crazy for me to say they might have more than y'all?
Probably. And it's not a knock. It's not a knock.
It's just
a lot of money. They got a lot of money.
They got oil money.
They got big time
unlimited money.
Let me jump in here real quick. So obviously we know, if you want to talk about the root of the problem, at least that's what everybody thinks, it's Jimbo and the money situation with all the boosters and all the rest of that. Guys, they have a crap ton of talent still. And
yeah, they definitely do.
In the trenches, especially. I mean, on defensive line, they were able to keep the guys they needed to keep.
Yeah, even after losing 3 or 4, I mean, they still got probably one of the more stacked defensive lines in the SEC.
Yes, and then going out there and getting David Hicks, who a lot of people still think is a day.
And they brought in Hicks. How do you get that and still bring in Hicks?
No,
that's the scary part.
And look, I'm not saying they're going to land Stone, but they're certainly
that close to it.
They're certainly attempting to reach where Oklahoma and Michigan State are to try and pull themselves up to be on equal footing. And while typically I would say, I think OU and I'm going to be honest here, guys, and I love Tucker. I don't think Michigan State. They've lost every defensive line coach they've had.
No,
right? Like, I just don't think that's going to work out.
How that's still even on his crystal balls or any of that stuff. It makes no sense.
It's it's a great institution. I think just all around, right? Michigan State. It's almost like Notre Dame.
Yeah, I just think it's probably just the relationships. Relationships matter.
100%.
You got somebody who's been recruiting you forever, and you don't want to tell them no, but you got to tell them no. But
I think 100%.
But the easiest way to tell them no was to put you in my top 4 or 5 and not pick you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think that, I think if Weidman, or however you say his name, if he's going to be, how you say his name?
Weidman. I like him though. I like him.
Actually,
he's the best out of the bunch that they had there. He's I mean, by a mile, he's the best.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and Evan Stewart is a dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
Muhammad, you have guys there. They have what it takes. That's why I was saying on the last show, I really think that if Jimbo leaves the room and says, Bobby, you do your thing, I think it will be okay. I think Petrino can call offense. I think he can really craft some stuff up, and I think he's going to do well this year. I really do. I think he was an X factor. I think getting him and releasing those reins of the offense, well, I'm not going to say completely release them, but I think just giving at least some control to Bobby Petrino, I think that was key for Jimbo this year. I don't think that they're going to go, 4-8 like Hank is saying, but I do believe. I mean, I don't think they're going to go out there and compete for to be in the SEC championship, but I definitely think they'll be better than what they were last year. I just don't see how you have that much talent and don't end up with. I mean, because look, we could talk about we can say it like this right here. X's and O's is one thing. You got those coaches who are just great at that. But sometimes some teams just have dumb luck. Like they just luck themselves into situations where they win a lot of games. And they're not ready for that moment. We see it every year. Mm-hmm. Every freaking year we see that. You could, I know I'm going to sound bitter, but you could say TCU. TCU escaped a lot of times during a lot of games.
I was going to say this.
They beat Michigan.
But that's the only knock that I can't. They stumbled through the Big 12, I think, all season.
Michigan's their best win by far.
Yeah, Michigan. But that's the key is they beat Michigan, right? In a playoff game. So I can't knock
in a convincing fashion, too.
So I can't knock them. They just weren't. They're not built enough and ready for Georgia.
They were not built for Georgia.
They don't have the championship depth that we talked about earlier. They don't have the championship depth, right?
Hank is that's a great segue into this last team. This will be the last team. LSU
I'm
scares the hell out of me. but not for the
What's wrong,
reasons
Ty?
why you would think they would scare me. They scare me because I am not a believer in the quarterback. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
Well, I got
don't
bad
know.
news for people.
What's that?
They got some quarterbacks behind him. Nussmeier.
Nussmeier's good. I like some Nussmeier.
If they don't work out with the quarterback they have, they got a guy that I think they feel very capable with. So
Yeah.
LSU, man, they are a team to watch.
They're gonna be scary.
And Mason Smith is coming back from injury. I think their best guy on the defensive front, all due respect to the guys they have, did not play a snap last year.
Yeah.
And that's Mason Smith.
Yeah. LSU's gonna be scary, man. To see what Brian Kelly did, this was his first full season of coaching, right? At the school, right? So how many games he won this year? 9 games? Was it 9 games?
I thought they went 10.
10? It was 10 or 9?
Let me look it up.
I think it was 10, right?
Yeah, because Bama won 10, right? Yeah, and they won 10. They had the tiebreaker. They played in the SEC championship game, right?
Oh, damn you, internet.
Yeah. It was 10 games, Ty. But people thought, and I'm not going to say I was one of them, but I was kind of one of them. I was like, how's the Brian Kelly fit going to be at LSU, right? How's the fit going to be? But he's a hell of a coach, regardless, wherever he's at. He can coach. And he was coaching hella ball up there at Notre Dame without having the resources to go out there and get talent from Podunk, nowhere, Louisiana, Mississippi next door, Houston, Texas. All right. So he was able to capitalize off that first year. He's going to have a hell of a class this coming up year. He's going to have a hell of a class for the 2024 season as well. And he can coach, man. He can coach. So they're a scary team. They're going to always be a scary team if he's the coach because he can coach his ass off. Now he has the talent to match it.
Yeah, they got talent. That's not the issue for LSU.
Yeah.
And I think that towards the end of the season, you saw what I'd like to. I pat myself on the back for saying this, but I'm not saying that Brian Kelly is just the greatest coach in America. But I think that coming to a program like LSU, especially off of the last year that Coach O was there, right? They needed structure. Like we said, some programs are just one coach away from bringing structure and actually and continue to bring the talent in. Some programs are just a few players away or a bunch of players away, right? But LSU is a place where you have the right structure and the right atmosphere. They'll go. You're guaranteed to win at least 10 games a year because the same talent, even if it's not the 5-star talent or whatever, the same talent that's in your state could go and be 5 stars everywhere else in the United States. So the thing about it is that you're able to even just walk outside and find talent there, and you're able to go and compete right off the bat. You have all this talent on your roster, but if you don't have the right structure and the right culture in the building, it doesn't really matter. And that's what I believe. That's what's always been the problem with LSU anytime that they've been quote unquote down.
That's true. That's true. But look, it's going to be interesting. They're always stacked. They got talent for days in that state. And, I've said this before plenty of times. I'm from Louisiana. I'm from Shreveport. And the state of Louisiana, I think, have some of the most untapped talent in the country. I think per capita, they're the highest rated state in the NFL when it comes to players that either went to high school. Players that went to high school or went to college in the state of Louisiana. I think I counted up, it was something crazy, like 90-something players that actually went to high school in the state. So, I mean, that's a team and a half. No, that's almost 2 full teams of football players that went to high school in state in that little small bitty state, right? So great talent from that state, man. Untapped talent in that state, and LSU gets all of them because they're the only game in town. So, Ellis, we've been on for an hour and 25 minutes, man. It's about that time.
I know.
All right, man. Tell everybody where they can go see you. Over to you, Ty.
Yeah, you can catch me at Around the Table Sports, just constant college football content. Same old, same old.
Horns Down Podcast. You guys already know you can find us on YouTube, all the places you get your podcasts and all of that. Definitely be on the lookout. Ty, man, I'm glad I got to see you tonight, bro.
You ain't glad you saw me?
I was hoping I would see Steven. Sometimes I feel like I bully you without Steven being here. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like something sinister is coming my way.
Oh, no, not at all.
I feel so too. Oh, man. All right, guys. Nick Battle, Nino's Corner everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, the whole nine. But thanks for tuning in, folks. We appreciate it. Same time, same channel next week, 7 p.m. Central Time on Wednesdays. And we out.